Mr Ramel assured the Libyans that the UK did not want Megrahi to die in a British jail. Just 3 months later, the Libyans requested Megrahi's release. On a visit to Washington last July, the British Prime Minister David Cameron admitted that he would have preferred Megrahi to stay in prison. And when Mr Cameron met with the US Secretary of State at a conference in Munich just last weekend, the pair issued a joint statement strongly agreeing that the release of the Lockerbie bomber had been a mistake. But crucially, although the previous UK administration had changed its stance on Libya, the review concludes there was no improper lobbying of the Scottish authorities by London, nor did the oil company BP influence the Megrahi case. It is a small consolation from a very murky affair. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, London.
Online company AOL's buying news website The Huffington Post for $315 million. It's AOL's biggest acquisition since the company separated from Time Warner in 2009. Al Jazeera's John Terrett takes up the story.
The Huffington Post is one of the most powerful online publications of its kind, already among the top 10 global news sites. Not bad for a start-up just 6 years old. The Huffington Post has a small team that break their own stories, but its reputation has been built on trawling other news websites for headlines and exclusives and then publishing them all in one place on the Huffington Post.
You can send me anything, Ariana@HuffingtonPost.com.
The site gets its name from founder Ariana Huffington, the one-time Greek shipping heiress turned astute businesswoman who will join the board of AOL as part of the deal. By adding the Huffington Post to its growing stable of websites like MapQuest and the ultra-local news-based Patch.com, AOL is hoping to attract more eyeballs to its own struggling site.
I know there's going to be some speculation.
AOL's been having a tough time after it was dumped by Time Warner when their much-trumpeted merger from year 2000 fell apart. AOL's revenue from online commercials and dial-up connections shrank sharply in 2010, and it hopes that by building up its portfolio of websites like the Huffington Post, advertising cash will soon start flowing its way once again. John Terrett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
We're heading back to our top story after this, the Egyptian uprising. Thousands of pro-democracy supporters paid tribute to a journalist killed during the clashes. And plans for one of Brazil's biggest street parties goes up in smoke. That's coming up. Stay with us.
Hello, well, I'm pleased to say those strong winds fanning the flames of the bushfires across that southwestern corner of Australia will ease over the next couple of days. You can see we still have a fair amount of cloud, a little bit of cloud just to the south of Perth. It's not going to help as far as the fires are concerned, but as I said, at least the winds will ease down. Plenty of cloud further north. There are still some very heavy downpours to come here. Heavy downpours too just around southern parts of Queensland, just around Brisbane, northern areas of New South Wales. For the southeastern corner, here it is set fair. It generally stays dry, and if anything, our large area of high pressure through the Bight will edge its way a little further eastwards. In the process, that's when we're going to see those winds just easing for the Perth area over the next day or so. Not so as we push up towards the northwest. Heavy downpours will persist here, and some heavy rain to come too into New Zealand. We've got some rain stretching out of Australia, just around the Gold Coast, pushing down into New Zealand. That will gradually make its way further northwards as we go on through Wednesday. So brighter skies coming back in behind Wellington, getting up to 18 degrees Celsius. Not too bad across Southeast Asia, but those southern areas very close to Australia, I'm afraid it does stay pretty disturbed with further spells of very heavy rain to come here. Further north into China, it is largely fine and dry, but it's sunshine and showers again for the Philippines.
As Washington's allies stumble, one after the other, exposed, losing control and influence, powerless in the face of the people's power, we ask, is this the dawn of a new Middle East empire at this time on Al Jazeera?
You're watching Al Jazeera. Hello again. A recap of the top stories. And southern Sudan has voted overwhelmingly to break away from the north. Official results confirm that more than 98% of voters backed secession, but Africa's newest nation will not be created until July. An Islamist rebel leader says he ordered the suicide bombing that killed 36 people at Russia's busiest airport last month. Doku Umarov describes the January 24th attack as a, quote, special operation and says there will be more attacks. And in Egypt, there have been calls for another mass protest on Tuesday. This as a leading activist is released from custody. He says he was behind the Facebook page that played a major role in the uprising. On Monday, public tribute was paid to a journalist who was killed during last week's violence. Jackie Rowland reports.
The death of a reporter. Ahmed Mahmoud was shot and killed as he took photographs of the police beating demonstrators near Tahrir Square. Inside the building, the president of the journalist syndicate comes to speak to the widow. Suddenly, he is mobbed by an angry crowd, hounded out as a crony of Hosni Mubarak. Numerous journalists have been beaten up and detained in the last 2 weeks. The one man so far to pay with his life worked for a state Egyptian newspaper.
For Egyptian journalist, Ahmed Mahmoud is a martyr of this revolution. They're not only mourning his death, they're also demanding that President Mubarak step down.
The journalists' unions say Ahmed Mahmoud was deliberately targeted by the security forces. They want his killer put on trial.
We want justice for Ahmed Mahmoud. We want justice for all the people now in Tahrir Square and all Egypt. We want justice for this youth who bring this revolution, and someone want to steal it from them.
The marchers are now close to Tahrir Square. They reach the first barricade. The anti-government demonstrators are tense. They fear that Mubarak supporters may be trying to pass. But the procession is allowed through.
On Wednesday, hundreds of young men were killed by the horses and the weapons. And I was there, I saw them. So it is not just one shaheed, hundreds of shuhada.
Ahmed Mahmoud, honoured on this day, is only one among hundreds who have died. And in Tahrir Square, the vigil continues. It will end, the people say, only when Hosni Mubarak steps down. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Thai and Cambodian troops have clashed for a fourth day along a disputed border near a 900-year-old temple. Wayne Hay reports.
Living near the Thai-Cambodia border can come at a cost. In recent days, an ongoing land dispute has shattered the peace in this otherwise sleepy Thai settlement. The owner of this house told us she managed to evacuate before a Cambodian artillery shell landed at her back door. This was the scene the night before, dozens of Thai shells streaking across the sky towards Cambodia. Despite the aggression from both sides, the Thai Prime Minister called for a peaceful solution, but said his country will continue to defend itself.
When there is firing into Thai territory, it's necessary for Thailand to protect its sovereignty. We counter the attack and we return fire only at military targets.
However, Cambodian television showed footage of the ancient Preah Vihear temple in the middle of the disputed area, which they allege was damaged by shelling. In Thai territory, the soldiers remain on edge. At checkpoints, supplies are being rushed to the front line. The border villages are now largely deserted. People who have stayed behind say they're ready for more fighting. They've armed themselves and are preparing new bunkers to shelter in. Those who aren't digging in are being catered for in the relative safety of a nearby town. The residents who have fled the fighting have come here to evacuation centres. In this one alone, there are around 9,000 people. Most of them say they're in no mood to go home anytime soon.
I will continue to stay here until the fighting stops.
Given the tension on the border, these people may be here for some time yet. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Kantaralak, Thailand.
Emergency warnings have been issued for areas of Western Australia as bushfires continue to spread. The blaze has already destroyed dozens of homes near the state capital, Perth, and more properties are under threat. February is the last month of summer in Australia. It marks the height of both the monsoon season in the tropical north and